TBH.
It just makes me relatable? That's what it is?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, alright.
You know.
So here's the deal. If we are going to start talking about a third darkness class, and you do make a lot of really good, really powerful narrative points for this strife class.
Thanks.
We do have to kind of pull back and we have to look at our bigger picture. Because we do have to start, if we're going to divvy this up, we have to be like, alright, so here's the narrative that goes to Stasis, here's the narrative that goes to Strife, here's the narrative that goes to Strands, so on and so forth, and God, I wish I had an ideas board Google app thing, where you can, basically just put post-it notes and move them around. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I literally got a, I have a whiteboard. I have a one of those, rolling, classroom whiteboards, and I have never gone back. It does absolutely let me look like the red string board meme from time to time, though, when I'm deep into mania, and it's just, I'm flipping back and forth between the two boards. It's just like the scene at the start of Atlantis, where he's got the chalkboards all over the place. It's great. It's great. I'm just channeling my mania. I'm making it work for me.
I don't have a whiteboard. I do have a big cork board, though.
That works too.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So yeah, let's look over then. So if we're doing this, Strand, Stasis, and Strife. So what are the major narrative points that we have for our three classes? And especially, we have to be careful because of all the stuff that already exists for Strand and Stasis. It's very likely a lot of this stuff is going to end up getting moved around before it even goes into the damn deck. God, welcome to development.
Woohoo! But okay, just 3-card Monty. It's 3-card Monty with your ideas.
Oh my god. Strife, we were saying this is...
it's a lot about agony, contest, struggle, right? It's kind of made that. It's the other half of sword logic, right? The idea that pain is the universe's greatest and oldest teacher. Kind of hits those narrative notes of characters who would wield stasis are people who are sadists, desperate survivors. Being adaptable, right? But they're torturers, they're people who inflict punishment, they're spiteful, but also in that same way patient, right? Whereas I think that's one of the breakaways from Stasis, because we see a lot of Stasis users being very impatient, right? I mean, some of the characters that seek it out are people who have grown impatient with the light. And so they're pursuing a more ready and available power that gives them, it opens up that throttle of power. It's just how much they can handle, right? It's what if we ran an entire car off of nitrous instead of gasoline? And if you can handle it, you can make it work. Whereas the light is something that is encouraging you to grow and develop. Stasis just asks you to a lot of the darkness elements just ask you to be able to handle it or perish.
I would add for Strife hopeful as part of its verbiage.
I actually agree with that, because I think that was some great narrative that we got from a lot of the lore around the Witness and all of the internal I can't think of a better word, but the parties, the factions, that's a better word, that ultimately ended up assimilating with one another to create the Witness. A lot of them, when interacting with the darkness, very many of them had interacted with the darkness as a force, as a mover, a shaker, as a telos of the universe, and they were hopeful about it. The idea of the final shape was like a balm, was a good thing. Not the same kind of final shape that, Callus wanted to wait around to see, or that, that Oryx was attempting to carve out in the space and the stars, right? But they saw it as something productive. So actually, I would tend to agree. And in that same note, it's that hope, but also that idea of, I want to be there for it, right? And I need to be there for it. You know, there's a hope that there's a finish line and I'm gonna make it. Yeah, I like that actually. I like hope as a touchstone of that. Especially if we were saying that it's opposite of solar. That's also kind of a touchstone for solar a little bit, right? Hope is kind of a touchstone for all of the light subclasses.
Well, there's a little bit of you're a guardian. There's a little bit of both, and you know, if we look at solar and we look at the scorched and all that other stuff, like that's not necessarily hopeful.
it's hopeful that this enemy burns to death in front of me.
Right. There's a little bit of that torture in there. There's a little bit of immolation.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
So solar can have immolation as a treat, and strife can have hope as a treat.
That's right. Yep, that's right. Each according to their means, right?
And then strand. How would we categorize strand in this dynamic with a third darkness class?
Okay. So, I mean, strand is heavily based on cognition. And I think in that regard, right? I mean, when we look at it actually pains me to bring this up as a salient lore point, but when we look at Neomuna, right, that's how they're utilizing strand power, right, is the persistence of human memory. So I think there's definitely still that note there, but it's very interconnected, right? It's that network of cognition. It's very thinking. It's contemplative. It's plotting, right? It's manipulative. It's very mobile and fluid, right? Which is polar opposite from stasis, which is, you know, stagnant and unmoving. So I think that it's also both, and I love this narrative similarity between both stasis and strand. They both seek to like isolate and immobilize their enemies, right? Stasis freezes, strand suspends. But stasis shatters and strand unravels, right? Like, and which are inherently different. Anyway. But yeah, no. So I think that those are some of the notes for strand. And strand is also, I think, kind of one of all of the darkness powers. It's also the one that kind of gets closest to actually being able to create. But it's still about drawing out of existing things to manufacture them. Right. I mean, that's really what, you know, like threadlings are and tangles are, right? Their essence and memory and cognition drawn out of existing sentience and then utilized for your purposes, which is again very manipulative, very puppet master.
Something from ages ago, I don't know if people even still talk about this, but I remember when Destiny 1 first came out, there was a lot of discussion about the 3 light classes relating to the fundamental forces of the universe. What were those forces again? It was, what is it? Strong nuclear, weak nuclear, gravity, and electromagnetic.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember this discussion. Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously the fundamental forces of the universe don't have an opposite. Because it's not when you're looking at the building blocks of the universe, it's not a yin and yang situation. It's an ABC, right? Like you don't have an opposite there. But I do think that there is a sense of an opposite, because if we're looking at, especially looking into lore introduced or discussed ever since Lightfall, which was renamed to something else, wasn't it? No,
Beyond Light?
No, Lightfall wasn't renamed, it was revamped. The original Lightfall was very black and white. But ever since the introduction of Strand, talking about how the light affects the fundamental forces of the universe, it's I mean, they're both paracausality, but in the sense, it's paracausality in that, heat can make fire, but you, as a solar guardian, can just skip the part where you have to have the heat to make the fire.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Fire. And it's very physical. And then when you're looking at the darkness classes, they are all very mental. And there are 3 aspects of the brain that immediately come to mind whenever we're talking about anything mental. And that is the id, ego, and...
Yeah!
What is the third one? Not alter ego.
A super ego, isn't
it? Something like that. I'm gonna go
I think it's id, ego, and super ego. Yep, id, ego, super ego.
Yeah.
It's a part of Freud's psychoanalytical structure.
Now, yep. Freud notwithstanding.
Yeah. Look. We can plunder the fool for the things he got right. All right.
Right. Yeah. So, we're looking at id, ego, and super ego. Could we possibly apply these to our darkness classes?
Yeah, that's a really good line of thinking. I think that's very, very unique. Ooh, yeah, perhaps. I gotta kind of refresh myself on the on all of the qualities of these things.
Most of what I know about id, ego, and super ego actually comes from a lot of Star Trek fanfiction. Because id, ego, and super ego are typically referred to in relation to Captain Kirk, Spock, and Dr. McCoy.
Yeah.
The id is the organism's unconscious array of uncoordinated instinctual needs, impulses, and desires.
Simplest explanation of that is your animal instincts, right? I'm hungry, therefore I eat. I'm cold, therefore I get warm, right? Yeah.
There's the superego, which is part of the psyche that has internalized social rules and norms, largely in response to, nature, nurture, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And the ego is the integrative agent that directs activity based on stuff. A whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's literally the middle part, right? So if id is that internal core animal instinct, superego is that, nature versus nurture, the superstructure of society, how that interacts with you. So it's external pressures, internal pressures, and then ego is the kind of the agency part in between those, right? The ability to go, I am hungry right now, but I'm actually going to wait because I'm dieting, or I'm cold, but that's because I'm in a pool and I'm doing this for exercise, so I'm gonna keep swimming, right? It's the ability to mediate those desires, and also to recognize when societal pressures are pushing against you and either go with or go against those concepts, right? But yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I wonder if we could then, right? Because I think in that regard, id feels very. Oh, is id stasis?
It might be.
I feel like, because that's even. I think that it actually kind of helps explain too where strife is sitting for me. It's because strand is very technical. It's very finesse, right? It's literally pulling at strings. You're plucking at the threads of fate in the universe. It's interacting with people's memories and thoughts and cognitions. Stasis is very straightforward. It's brutal. It's strong, right? But in that same way, it's natural, right? And I think that's even part of the temptation that stasis provides. For those that would see it as temptation, right? But it just resonates with me, the conversations that our ghost has with the Guardian, right? All throughout the whole time of where it's like this is, it's brutal. I don't like how it's changing you. It's very direct. It's just, there's no nuance to this, right? It's asking you to do something and you're just doing it. Then I think strife is probably the ego. It's that interlacing between the two. It's that ability to go, no, it's that ability to kind of, I can sit back, I can be patient, I can weather this storm. But then it's also that ability to just snap and go, no, I'm done with you. I'm going to rip you apart, and I'm going to make it excruciatingly painful to make an example of you. Right? Feels very witness. Feels very Oryx, right? These paragons of the deep, right? Flawed in their own ways, even by the winnower's own words. But they were the closest to ever get potentially to the core ideals of the deep, of the darkness. So yeah, and I like that. I think that's also what makes those themes infatuating. Because right now we're also talking about the things that make compelling villains, right? Because I think we can also break down a lot of villains into whether they can control their impulses, whether they are a product of a broken system, or whether they've found their niche in between, and those are the scarier ones, right? It's the difference between your maniacs, your sociopaths, and then the like, or I guess your sociopath would be in the middle, right? So like your super ego manipulators of society, right? Your id, I can't control my base impulses, and they drive me to do terrible things to people. But the scarier ones are the sociopaths, right? The ones that kind of just drift in the middle, just enough to garner power, get what they want, but just enough to slip below the radar and not be a threat until it's too late, right?
I first of all, I did create a new tab called Whiteboard. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not. No. I have been. I turned off my eyes to think and speak better.
No. I get you. I do the same thing too. You can't. You have to shut down that one sense so that you can focus on other things. You can't deal with it. You know.
It's like when I have to turn down the radio to drive better when traffic gets bad. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta reduce the input. On
the stimulus.
Yes. You can't overstimulate yourself. But I actually brought in some stuff, oddly enough, from TV tropes, which is weirdly good at summarizing the concepts of the id, the ego, and the superego, and I pasted them up there at the top, especially with regards to how they tend to be manifested in terms of narrative, because you have your psychological definitions of them, your clinical definitions, but then we have like, here's how people tend to colloquially write about them. The Freudian trio, one who acts emotionally and instinctively, one who acts with cold, passionless logic, and one who reconciles the two conflicting ideals. And this is, I specifically remember reading about this again in the Star Trek fanfic I used to read a lot.
No shame.
There's one fanfic that I have been reading. I am still waiting for the final chapter to get updated, and I do regularly go check on it. It's been almost 20 years. I will wait forever if I have. On my deathbed, I will be refreshing that.
You will become a strife hunter to persist long enough for the next chapter to be published.
I will. I am still
It's your final shape.
on.
I understand. I think there's more than a few Game of Thrones fans who are beginning to sympathize with this pain you experience.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe.
maybe.
So the cold, passionless logic. I mean, we literally have the stasis, the cold one. So I don't know if I would necessarily put that as the instinct one.
Okay.
Though, like the id is the gut, and if you would go with your gut feelings, that kind of feels like Strand. Yeah. I can see that. It's kind of difficult because I think there's an argument to be made for each of these. We're just trying to find the one that resonates the most, right? But to a certain extent, if strife is just our survivability, our I must survive it, that feels very id. Right, in some context, right? That idea of survive at all costs. There's nothing I wouldn't do to see tomorrow. That could be strife. But I don't know. That's hard because there's a certain extent where I could see Strand being the ego as well, of reconciling. Of being, because of that interconnectivity, being in the middle, making decisions, plotting and planning. But that's especially considering that it's tied to memory and cognition. I'm trying to remember from my psychology, where in general psychiatry, never mind. It's not going to come to me. I was about to say, to completely distract you from that line of thought. I mean, another thing that we can consider is instead of trying to assign these to individual classes or types, well, in D&Destiny, it would be the superclass, right? Into individual superclasses. We could have the subclasses. You know, you have the strand id, the strand superego, and the strand ego, which I don't know if that's necessarily going to be something we want to pursue, because we do already have a whole bunch of subclasses for these. It might be getting a bit too granular with that. But at the very least, definitely keeping this in mind. While you can argue all of them. You know, you can... If we're going just by what I have up here and not anything else, emotion and instinct and desires gratification and pleasure. I would almost want that to be strife.
Yeah.
Social rules and conventions one lives by and desires perfection. I would put that at stasis, and ego being strand. And
I like that. I like that interpretation. I agree with that interpretation.
And I was going to say, it's definitely the desires perfection that's stasis. That's everything we've been talking about with stasis, where it's who cares about myself, who cares about you, because obviously when you're working with these powers and you're working with the space magic, you're not affecting society necessarily, unless you're the witness.
Right.
But the society of the universe, right? The physics society, where you're using your powers to manipulate and be like, okay, no, you're gonna sit down, kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially too, I like superego as stasis, because it is kind of it's the ongoing question of philosophy, which ultimately leads to, you know, people take concepts of philosophy and attempts to make patterns of government, rules for society, how to live, how to be, is that idea of how to be. One of the core concepts of philosophy, the core tenet is how to be a good person, right? How to be a better person. And so, you know, the Stoics have their ideas about it, the Epicureans have their ideas about it, right? And those ideas kind of just keep getting pushed forward and interacted with, tried, tested, fail, and move forward. And that feels very stasis, right? I mean, that's very Clovis Bray. That's like everything he blathers on about. Now, Clovis Bray does believe that he is perfection, but that's because he's a sociopath.
I mean, it's still desiring perfection, which is desiring to make everyone subservient to him because he is perfect.
Right, and if you think about it too, the way that he tries to do that with the Exo Project, what's the exact phrase? He wants to be the blank of human cognition and thought. There's a word that he uses, which I think is paramount for somebody who thinks in a super ego kind of a way, right? Or in Nietzsche's way of thinking of the Ubermensch, right? He wanted to be. I gotta look up the quote.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, hang on.
Clovis. I get it.
Human thought. It's gonna bug me, but it's
it's gonna bug you until you finally get it.
Yeah,
the issue of I can remember like two words and the vague concept, but not what it was said.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. He wanted to be. It wasn't the Alcahest is again another. He wanted to be the. My brain keeps going back to Seneschal, but that's a completely different concept. But the core idea of it, right, is he wanted to be like the progenitor of all human thought, right?
Yeah.
Basically that every exo's mind is structured to think and function and emanate from his own thoughts, right? Or at the very least within his pattern of thinking. It's very the faction from Dune that go around and basically create other worlds, societies, structures, and religious structures, so that way when the Empire comes to town, they're pre-established to see whatever figure is coming to colonialize them as their savior, typically. The Bene Gesserit. It's the Bene Gesserit. It's clearly a lesson he learned from the Vex, right? He liked the way that the Vex thought, right? Oh, imagine how powerful everything could be if we all thought. I mean, everyone has thought this, right? If we could all just get along and work together, have our kumbaya moment, and just move towards a common goal, we'd be unstoppable. And Clovis Bray is like, yeah, but people are stupid, and I'm really smart. So if everybody just got along with me, we'd be great. Everything would be hunky dory. I'd have to stop worrying about getting gifts for my granddaughter, who's for whatever reason doesn't like me.
Can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why. I'm perfect.
I literally
but all of
made
this
her,
to say,
genetically.
Yeah. Exactly. Such a poetic ending that Banshee 44 is Clovis Bray and took one look at himself and went, "You dumb as hell, dude."
You're so fucking dumb, and I'm so glad I'm not you.
God, I'm so glad I wasn't stupid enough to make myself a giant immovable head. I'm gonna go try and save my family.
Right?
Asswipe. Thanks for the bitch-ass sword.
God damn it. Definitely not getting monetized. Anyways, who cares?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Who cares? So if we come back to this then, if we come back to the stasis strand and strife, is there anything we need to change about the descriptions after slapping on the ego, the superego, and the id?
Ooh, let me think for just a moment on that. Go with the flow, move, change, keep pushing forward, memory incarnation. I think that's fine. Stasis works really well there. Willful, stubborn, unmoving. Right. Because that feels very much like those pressures, right? Because for us, right, if we're going back to the philosophy way of thinking, generally speaking, society is unmoving, right? For good and for ill, right? But that, those are things that we push against and push back against us. And that feels very stasis, right? People who want to wield stasis are the people who exert those immovable wall forces on other people. And if you're a Titan, you put it into your fist and shatter people with it. And then strife is just that. No, I like it because I think just because. No, I like it. Yeah, I like it. I think the only little hang-up I had with it originally was the characters I keep thinking of as these archetypes who would be wielders of strife are such poised characters. They're very thoughtful, but they're just people who have mastered their impulses, but they are still ruled by them. They just get to control them, right? These are your vampires, your sadists, your manipulators, right? There's a spiel from Blue-Eyed Samurai. There's a character that goes on, basically a character who was crushed by superego circumstances and pushed to his baser impulses. And his entire ethos is basically a famine was inflicted upon my people. I had to make terrible, terrible decisions to survive. They made me who I am. They made me strong enough to survive. And I have decided I make the decisions over my own life. I control my impulses, but I still understand it's really impulses that drive us all. The one particular phrase, because basically, as often happens in famine, he has to resort to cannibalism.
Mm-hmm.
The really terrible twisted part about it is he has to consume a family member, right? He has to consume his little sister who he had been protecting. For him, the really chilling line that ends the monologue is after that, and when I survived, I decided for myself I would control every decision of my life, every last bite. And that is it for me. That's the strife user right there. As I recognize that agony is ever present in the universe. Pain is ever present and unmovable, always will exist. But in order to survive it, you have to channel it and carry it forward. And oftentimes that means wield it against the people who would try to kill you and stop you. So I like it. I like it. No, I think this fits.
Okay.
I think this fits.
Then we need to go back to
we're having a very esoteric and philosophical Saturday morning, aren't we?
Yeah, what a great way to start your Saturday. It's 10
Absolutely.
a.m. and here we are talking about cannibalism and space magic.
I always just have the nicest conversations with you, don't I, Kitty? I just bring the nicest things to the table.
All right. I do want to come back to Strand because we do have to revisit Strand then, and especially we have to revisit some of the subclasses and the narrative around those subclasses that we've built for them.
Sure. Okay.
In particular, I'm thinking about Broodweaver, who we've discussed and have built it to be far closer to super ego instead of an ego.
Okay. Oh.
And I guess we have to ask the question, do we care, first of all, that we've done that? Because we always have the power to be like, yeah, these 3 things are cool, but we don't actually have to implement them. Like, we have that power. We don't have to.
Right. Yeah, this isn't like people who have the bad take of when they read Hero with a Thousand Faces, which is just Joseph Campbell's treatise on how all stories are the same, and go, oh, so we should just always write all of our books exactly like the outline that Joseph Campbell gave us. It's like, well, right, we can have exceptions that prove the rule, to keep stealing Ido's great quote that he gave me. No, so I think also, too, there's still a way that we can kind of have our cake and eat it, too, with that. Like, yeah, absolutely, we can have our Strand users be manipulative, right? But that kind of makes sense, right? Because if the ego is interacting with the base impulses and the society, it's mediating between the two. That means it's kind of got its foot in either camp, right? So I think the ability to kind of manipulate and create those structures or interact within them is totally fine. In the same way that, like the dreamer is leading people around by their base desires and impulses, creating these fantasies for them. Just because it interacts with the id doesn't mean that it's not ego, because that's literally what ego does. Additionally, as well, some minor flavor adjustments to Broodweaver siphoning off people's thoughts or like those excess psychic energies to generate the powers that it does is exactly what Strand does, and is also exactly ego. It's just it's the filter between the two, right? This is a rule from society. Do we follow it though? It doesn't really benefit us right now. Okay, maybe we don't. Or, oh wow, I have this base desire to punch this man in the face. Do I do that though? Well, it's not as productive as I think it would be, so we won't do that right now. That's the ego.
So then it sounds like it mostly comes down to rewriting and reflavoring a few things.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be a complete restructure of mechanics.
Okay.
And I'm not just saying that because I don't want to restructure the mechanics.
As a person who made first edition and had to do that several times for every class.
It's a part of the process. If we needed to do it, I'd be right in there with my sleeves rolled up and apologizing to our fellow devs, going, I'm sorry, I had a philosophy conversation with Kitty and now we're doing this. It's my fault.
And
Hate
now we're
me.
doing this. Oh my god, no. And like it's absolutely necessary, but it's after doing this for 7 years now. I want to stop and I want to talk things through a little bit. I want to do some logistical planning first to make sure.
Yeah. Measure twice before we pull out the bandsaw. And then lose a few fingers.
And then and just I also love just a tall glass of copium on my Saturday mornings too. We only have to reflavor it. There's nothing else that's gonna. We only have to reflavor it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very good.
So then, with stasis, we're looking at the superego, the brain, methodical, and desires perfection. I know right now you had some ideas for Revenant, and we can go talk about Revenant, and in particular talk about how these ideas can relate into the superego.
Sure.
Without stepping on the toes of our... Oh god, it's gonna take me forever to remember all these names, but without stepping on the toes of the id, because I do remember last time I was looking at this, there was a lot of stuff in here that very much felt like instincts.
Sure.
When we're talking about hunts to start, like that feels very instinctual.
Yeah. You could make a case that I think there is a case to be made that it kind of just depends on what hunt you're describing, because there's a fundamental difference in the way that we as humans hunt versus the way that animals hunt. And our most effective hunting tactics, especially nowadays, are very organized, right? And they're based around manipulating the base instincts and overcoming them. But your point does still stand, and a lot of the language that we've been using does feel very primal. We've been focusing a lot on the primacy of those things. And I think, though, it'll be very easy to pivot more towards moving away from primal rage and focused rage, right? Because there is a difference, right? I think everyone has probably felt the difference, right? It's the difference between raw anger and like righteous indignation, right? Mm-hmm. You know, anger with a cause, anger with a telos, as opposed to just a tantrum. They're different, and I think if we pivot towards that, and in that regard, first of all, I actually, because at first I was very afraid, Kitty, because as I told you, Hunt of the Venator is like my baby. I kind of love it. It was
okay. Let's look at that.
Yeah, because Fim gave the nugget of that idea, and I just ran with it, and I love it. It's beautiful. But I think there's a way to flavor it such that we can still have our cake and eat it too. And I think, and this gets a little heavy, but some of the more brutal qualities of superego crushing societies are the elimination of things that don't fit. And I see the Venator as that. It's kind of why I chose the word, right? Because Venators are very justice-oriented hunters. They're ruthless. They're like judge, jury, and executioner all wrapped up into one, mm-hmm. which is to say, they're certainly not just. But that's the point. They're ruthless. So I think if we just steer away from some of the more like, oh, this is like a fox hunting a rabbit in winter, and shift more to the I have weighed you and found you wanting, and the fact that you are now stasis crystals beneath my feet proves I was correct. Proves that my pattern of living, my structure, this world of perfection I'm trying to build for myself, was correct. And I think it does hit those notes. Because it's all about marking a target effectively. I used a word other than mark because mark is such a bloated term in 5e. But mechanically speaking, it's a mark. You know, I'm not going to try to pretend like I came up with something entirely new and unique. But it's about effectively the ability to mark a target. You get ways to maneuver and interact around your marked target, and one of those in particular is the ability to simply invoke destroy creature whenever you damage them with one of your powers. So it's antithetical to how Song of Flame works, right? Because Song of Flame is I empower myself and now I'm radiating so strongly with my light. All of my abilities have destroy creature. This is specific execution. I'm marking you, I'm spending a resource to do it, and then I'm going to burn more of my resources to prove that you should not be here. So I think that fits super ego. It's crushing, it's uncaring, it's unfeeling, and it's merciless. And fits into this like Ubermensch idea, which, you know, is bad.
I'm saving all my comments. I am writing stuff down as you talk, and I'm saving all of my comments until you've told me all about your child here, and then
yes. There we go. And then if we have to send them away to boarding school, I'll be okay. I promise.
Okay.
I'll be okay. I promise. But yeah. Those are my thoughts on the Venator, especially with recontextualizing them within this pattern of thinking that we have now.
So
I think it. Yeah.
Yes, we have our quarry at 3rd level, then at 6th level. You can always hide while lightly obscured. And for people following along with us, this is the 3am dev speak, where it's what did you call it? Vibe coding.
Vibe coding. Yeah.
So it exactly like you said earlier. Vibe coding, horrible when you're actually programming. When you're doing creative works like TTRPGs and stuff like that, it's a necessary part of the process where you just start with vibe code, essentially. These are this is not how it's going to be worded in the final version of it, but we as developers know what it means, and we can talk about it, we can discuss it, and we can decide if it's going to stay before we put in all that extra language.
Also, Kitty, as a note, your mic is cutting in and out a little bit.
Is it? No, it better not be. I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah. Is doing a little bit of that fun little half-second flicker.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Mike, hopefully that doesn't show up on the recording. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, it could be my connection. It was just happening. Like there have been a couple of little like hiccups earlier, but this was like a machine gun of them real quick.
Oh no. I'll have to listen to the recording later and find out.
Good.
Where are we? We're approximately 13 minutes into this. Okay. Actually, no.
Yeah.
Hour 13.
A little longer, I think. Yeah, because we yeah. I was like, oh yeah, did we only start at 10? And I was like, no, we didn't start at 10. It's okay.
Okay.
It's all good.
Alright, worries. So then we go into hazy steps. So you can always hide while lightly obscured. Once per turn, when you reduce a creature to 0, you generate an area of lightly obscuring mist equal to the size of the creature. You can ignore difficult terrain as long as your movement brings you closer to your quarry. Ruthless efficiency, you create a stasis shard, and then Boreal Executor. At 17th level, you can activate Destroy Creature on your quarry when you inflict any amount of stasis damage. Alright, so core gameplay loop, I am not necessarily against it. I do think that it's going to get very overpowered very fast, because if stasis powers, right?
Yeah.
Destroy a creature. You just attune to the Withering Blade, and you have 2 of them, and you can spend stasis, and every time you cast one, you get a stasis shard, which you can spend to make it. The loop is infinite, essentially.
Yeah, I think I made a note somewhere. Actually, it might have been in our DMs of like, there's a part of me that thinks like it might be too dependent on the powers and the resources. Like it might be closer to useless. But my natural inclination is to believe that in its current vibe coding state, this is oppressive. The only thing this thing can't do is kill bosses, and it's kind of designed to do that, right? The core gameplay loop is I am probably the most efficient at ad clear when I'm playing a Venator Revenant. However, it is probably a bit too good at that, especially considering that when your quarry is killed, you can take recoil damage equal to your power modifier. If you do, you can immediately select a new creature to be the target of your quarry when your quarry is killed. Which means, because it's immediate, and I do like the cinematics of this might just need to go, that particular bit might just need to go to 13th level to slow it down, and instead of creating another stasis shard when you kill a thing. But I did like the idea that with Withering Blade, because it can, correct me if I'm wrong, Withering Blade bounces, right?
It can, yes.
It can, right. So the idea is that you could mark a quarry, throw Withering Blade, invoke Destroy Creature. While it's in flight, invoke another quarry. It bounces to that target, kills them, and then you just keep doing that. That's probably too good at 3rd level. But I was just kind of
too good in general.
Fair enough.
In
Fair
general,
enough.
it might be too good.
Yeah.
Because we also have to think about our other greater design, and when I say greater, I mean like wider scope design ideals.
You're good.
Is that all of our classes should have at least 2 melees to pick between, and
true.
I don't want a subclass where it becomes so obvious that you have to pick this one melee. Or it just becomes gets to the point where it's like, if the min-maxers, the little goopy gaming goblins are they're gonna look at this and they'll be like, I'm gonna feel bad if I pick any other melee except Withering Blade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If I make a choice other than this, every single time I roll initiative with this character, I'm gonna be wishing I could go back in time and undo my decision. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's super fair. So,
but the core concept, though, what you're mostly talking about here, and just the thematics of what you're discussing, I think we can still work with this. It's just we're gonna have to try to find a way to massage these mechanics into something that's a little bit more applicable
Yeah, grounded, perhaps.
Grounded, yes.
Yeah,
Widely applicable to more stuff, more...
Sure.
Okay, so we have, like, the very core of the mechanic that we're talking about here is quarry, where you want to pick a creature and you want to be like, I want to... You mentioned before, almost a test between the two of them. Did I hear that right? Am I remembering right?
A little bit, right? I mean, in as much as you eliminating your quarry is proof that you are the superior hunter, right? Right.
Yeah.
It's that idea of that core idea of stasis, chasing perfection, right? So you're eliminating the imperfections as you go.
I almost wonder. Okay.
Okay.
I'm loath to say this because I do think we have way too many goddamn conditions in this goddamn game. There's a lot of things that we have too many of, but also I'm looking at stuff like, if we're going to introduce a third darkness class, which is going to be a third superclass, 3 more classes, 3 more subclasses. There's a lot. We're just going to have a lot of everything. I'm still loath to say this, though, which is that, what if it was something along the lines of, when you reduce a creature to 0, you gain a condition, and it can stack a number of times, and it's essentially playing into sword logic a little bit, where it's, I have proven I'm better than you, so I get this resource I get to spend.
Interesting.
And
okay,
it might end up leaning itself into a narrative where, imagine you have your Centurion who's hunkered down inside the Cabal fire base, and there's the Guardian is out there picking off their legionaries one by one until finally it's just them versus the Centurion, and the Centurion knows they're screwed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've let the snowy hunter snowball, basically.
You've let the snowy hunter snowball. So I'm almost wondering if that's the kind of setup we want to do here. It is a condition unique to the subclass, which makes it a little bit easier for me to suggest, because then it's that player. It's
confined.
Yeah, it's confined to that player.
What's great? Yeah, what's great about that too is it's stasis. Stasis doesn't share. Right, so this wasn't like when conditions were being floated around in Strand, and it was like, oh, well, Strand users, because they're sharing and they're making these networks and it's all that interconnectivity, they can just give all these things to other players. It's like, no, please, God, no, it's worse but worse. Stop. No. We could do that. We could make it like a custom condition. We might even be able to do it off of existing conditions, because we do have some positive conditions in the game. I'm thinking of things like empowered.
We could, it could just straight up be empowered. You know, you get empowered on a kill. Like, that could just be the 3rd level feature, and that we don't even have to say stacks or anything like that, because
we could just increase the tier at which you become empowered based on your level, right?
And it immediately makes it easier for you to get future kills, because, you know, you're empowered. We might give them a feature that says something like, if you become empowered on your turn, you remain empowered until the end of your turn. So
that was actually going to be my recommendation. Was I would want this empowered to be something that lasts longer than like a rally barricade, right? Because rally barricade's a one and done, and you know, empowering rift gives consistent empowered, but you have to stand in your little 5-foot radius circle of death.
For the Minotaur too. Yeah,
for the Minotaur to bull rush you and double torch hammer you, and then for the Hydra to double torch hammer you,
and then for the Cyclops to cannon you, and for the Goliath to planet cracker. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. The Sunsinger Well of Radiance user in me is going. It's all of the things I hate. Oh.
I can hear the life draining from your voice as the Sunsinger main had all of their hit points they worked so hard to restore get stripped away with a single payload.
Yeah, when I was first building mine, I was like, I'm sure Con being my 4th highest stat will be just fine. 2 sessions in, all right, every ASI from here is increasing Con, all right? We're a charisma caster, but we can only be charismatic as long as we have breath in our lungs. So we're bulking up, boyo. Get the creatine.
So I'm thinking 3rd level, you reduce a creature to 0, you become empowered, and then I would say at 6th level, it's when you become empowered, you remain empowered until the end of your next turn.
Oh, no, Kitty, and that solves things, because Ido liked this, which was like the worst thing he could have said. Because I hated wrestling with this verbiage. But Ido was like, ooh, yeah, I like the combo of lightly obscured hiding, right? Which is part of that 6th level feature, right? And then the other half of it is you get to ignore I was trying to figure out how to make it so we could have striker light or very specific striker, right? Because, we're pursuing. We need to be mobile. We need to close our kills. That kind of an idea, right? And we're a hunter. We're a predator. We got to pounce on our kills. And Ido was like, actually, I really do like some of the little notes you put down of better movement, towards an enemy. And I was wrestling so hard how to make that unique from striker, tied into the quarry mechanic. But you can't just be like, hey, at the start of your turn, you get plus 10 movement, but only if your movement took you closer towards the enemy, because that's a backwards if loop, and that just doesn't work. So I was like, cool, you get to ignore difficult terrain as long as your movement brings you closer to your quarry. But what if there's no difficult terrain that's just a dead feature? Because you already get to ignore all of your own paracausal difficult terrains from literally every ability that gives you paracausal difficult terrain in stasis, because that's like the point. But no, this is actually great, because at 6th level, we can just do you can always hide while lightly obscured, and then when you're empowered, you just get some extra movement speed. Because the main loop of this is, Kitty, we get to build a custom, the whole point of this class, we get to build a custom condition that's not a custom condition. It's just tacked onto an existing one. Kind of like how poison effects in old MMOs used to be, you're not actually poisoned, we just made an invisible elemental follow you around and do chip damage to you, and you can't hurt him.
That's right, but you can't see him or target them, Yeah,
it's a poison kit. Yeah, we coded a Dot into the game. The elemental's name is Dot, and he's just a bastard.
Was that World of Warcraft? That
yes,
might have been yeah, that was World of Warcraft.
It's World of Warcraft.
Oh my
god.
It's
also Minecraft. The way that Minecraft does burning damage.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the way that they do burning damage is an invisible fire arrow hits you and sets you on fire whenever you would be set on fire.
Jesus.
Yeah.
You gotta get creative when you're doing video games. Like, my god. All right.
Yeah.
So Let's start writing some of this stuff. First things first.
You mean we can't just delete it all? It's fine. That's okay.
It's okay.
I only worked on this all week.
Buddy, me grabbing you by the ear, yanking you in? Do you have any idea how much I've deleted, and I've worked on it for 3 years?
I was told as much when you first all called me in to work on Strand, and I was like, hey guys, what if we just completely refactored all of this? And it was like, yeah, I mean, that works, but like, storms off in other direction.
God. So Venator's Quarry, let's vibe code this. This is whenever you reduce a... Does it have to be? It has to be hostile. Here's a fun thing. The reason why you see hostile creature everywhere is because if you have it say whenever you reduce a creature, it means you see that bird over there? I'm gonna reduce it to 0.
Yeah, and it's like that bird wasn't hostile. Yeah, hostile is a thing it feels about you, not you want it to be in the moment.
So it's like, you see that fly that landed on my visor? I slap it, I reduce it to 0, now I get all my buffs.
Yeah,
it can't just be a creature, it has to be a hostile creature.
Now, we might, keeping that in mind, because you're right, I kind of forgot about the pedantic people of the world. We do have the vibe in, this is later, so just to put it in the back of your mind to percolate on. For Behemoth, we had the idea that like an uncaring, like opportunistic tactician, Behemoth Titan, could proc some of its abilities when they're out. We could just use hostile or allied creature, I guess is the very explicit terminology there. But the idea that they don't care whether it's their friend or their enemy that dies. It's all about the opportunity. It's like gives the character vibes of like Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars, of I will absolutely sacrifice an entire squadron of TIE fighters if it buys me 20 more seconds to get the MacGuffin I need. it's the line of some of you may die, and that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Yeah.
Right, Lord. Oh my
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so when you use hostile creature to 0 hit points, we might still want to make this a quarry mechanic, just because just killing a thing giving you empowered seems very. So we might still want to do our resource-based quarry mechanic to provide a limiter to it, and then we can just tack on some bonuses to targeting quarries later. But the vibe coding is fine, right? Our idea is that.
I don't know if that's going to be that big of a deal.
Okay, heard.
Because
So you don't mind a Venator killing a thrall and becoming empowered, or potentially for the rest of the scene.
I mean, that's still. Hang on one moment. My headset's dying. I gotta plug that in. There we go. It's plugged in. But that still gives you the vibe of like you are better at killing ads than you are at killing bosses, because it's gonna take you so fucking long to kill the boss. But
that's
that
true.
thrall you can take out, you're empowered. Maybe you can now take out an acolyte, or maybe that low HP knight. Like, you work your way up the chain.
No, and I really like that too, because if we look at the baseline, just the Revenant version of extra attack, which is, I genuinely think it might just be one of my most favorite little small mechanics in the game. Like, the Ludo narrative of Fury Attack is just, I love this. I think about this mechanic and I want every mechanic to be as good as this. Well, it just hits, right? It just hits because it's effectively extra attack. It's a little better, but it's all about focusing on one target. You're ripping away at yourself to do it with recoil damage. Yeah, it's good. It's just good. I like it. But I think that adds to that mentality of, right, like, a Revenant Hunter, a Revenant Venator will be very good at closing their kills. If they don't get the kill, they need to make themselves empowered. They can just hurt themselves and close the kill. And then from there, they can take that empowered condition and just unload on something big, right? Which I think is, but they're flaying themselves to do it. I did see, this was ages ago in some feedback questions, can you only do Fury Attack once, or can you do as many chain attacks as you're willing to take recoil damage for?
Technically, I think with the way that it's set up, so when you take the attack action, you hit a target, you may attack the same target again as part of the same action. So the attack you do after is not the attack action. You've already taken the attack action. So you can't loop it on yourself. The wording is super hyper specific to get that interpretation of it,
because it's really close. Yeah, it's really close.
What you can do is your turn when you take the attack action. I
think that works because I feel like some folks might quibble over this line in particular as part of the same action, because then they'll be going, well, that's a weapon attack. I hit, especially if they hit that second attack, right? I hit a target with a weapon attack. It's still a part of the attack action because it's specifying it's a part of the same attack action. Therefore, I can take more recoil damage. I don't know. Well, that could be very, very, very oppressive. We would probably need to make the recoil damage like way higher if we wanted it to just be like, I'm gonna make an attack. I'm gonna make another attack. I'm gonna make another attack. Hey, guess what? I'm gonna make another attack.
Do you know about the fighter samurai from Fighting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
good.
I do.
Makes 21 attacks and then immediately dies.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Which, to be fair, feels Hunter to me.
It does, and it's very like, samurai too. Like, damn.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
They
right. Yeah. It does. Yeah. No. Samurai Fighter is also some great mechanics there.
Okay, but looking at this right now, I'm wondering if there's a way that we can just sort of spruce this up a little bit while we're here. Pun intended. Evergreen Ice Class. Got it. Anyways.
Yep. No, I saw it. I saw it. It was good.
When you take the attack action, you may make a second weapon attack as part of the same action. So this doesn't require you. This version doesn't require you to use it against the same target.
Yep. Also doesn't require you to hit.
Yeah, it doesn't require you to hit. If we did that, though, to make this different from extra attack, we probably have to have the recoil in there as part of it. And then...
But if we're gonna, it needs to have some sort of benefit, right?
Yeah. Because if we do just this, then this is just an extra attack. The whole point of making it the same target. Or we could leave... Okay, so if we leave the same target in here, right?
Yes.
Then...
Which I do like, because it gets across that fury. You're angry that they're still alive. Yeah.
If we leave same target in here, then it becomes sort of where the subclasses sort of revolve around that concept. Because you remember when we were talking about Berserker and how all the subclasses of Berserker have a way of getting over the bonus action rage cost. They have a way of proccing their rage without having to spend that. And that's kind of the whole point is, you know, you pick your subclass, which is going to have, if you pick this one, then you get to get over rage this way. What we not necessarily quote-unquote get over with Fury Attack, because if we keep same attack in here, then when we're looking at our Venator, you quote-unquote get over it because you're still better at ad clear, so you're not going to be Fury attacking because you're probably going to kill your first target, but you're going to get that bonus damage that's going to make it easier to kill future targets or future bigger targets.
Yeah, because if your empowered condition persists, it's not burned just when you make a single attack. If it's like standing in an empowering rift and it persists, you know, you remain empowered until the end of your next turn or something like that. Then it could mean that whenever you proc Fury Attack, you get to do it. I do think Fury Attack could use a little bit of love because it is just extra attack, requiring it's extra attack with extra steps, extra cost, and technically no real benefit. When I thought the interpretation was you could just keep chain attacking for as long as you're willing to rip yourself apart, right? That's definitely a benefit because it's a higher ceiling of damage. It's also a higher floor, or it's a lower floor for failure. Because, you know, if you keep rolling 12s on those 2d6s, you might just go, I can't handle this anymore. The hate cut me too much. I'm too edgy. But if we actually make it, now this is a little crazy, and this gets a little nuanced, but just ride with me, and if this is too crazy, that's fine. We could remove as part of the same action, and go as a free action. Now, the reason why that would be good, and we should probably keep the recoil cost high, is because this gets around cumbersome. Or, excuse me, this gets around unwieldy. Which I think is a good payoff. But you have to hurt yourself because unwieldy specifies... Yeah, it does, because unwieldy specifies you can only make one attack with an unwieldy weapon in the action you're using. If we're giving them an extra free action to make an attack with, it's not an offhand attack. We're giving them, you can make that attack as a free action. It just means that free action attack couldn't spool off into more, right? Mm-hmm. So say they had, say for whatever reason you had Cascade on an unwieldy weapon, right? Follow me here. Mm-hmm. Unwieldy and Cascade wouldn't really work because I think Cascade is an additional attack as a part of the same action. Let's just pretend that that's how Cascade works, right? Okay. If you had some mechanism that allowed you to go, hey, as a part of that same action, you can make an attack, unwieldy cancels that because it says you can only ever, when you spend on action any resource to make an attack with this weapon, you can only do so once. If it's your reaction, no chain attacks, right? So if you have Cascade and unwieldy on a weapon and you make a reaction attack and you kill something, I'm sorry, you don't actually get to make that additional attack. You would only get to go, like, run 15 feet, which is, I think, the other thing that Cascade does. Because it specifically states, when you spend an action, you can only make one attack with this weapon. That weapon attack consumes the entire action. If you give them an action, an additional action or something that steps outside of that little curly Q brackets, then they get to. So hypothetically speaking, if you have an unwieldy sniper rifle and you Fury Attack, you could bypass it because it's an additional action that you're giving them to make an attack with.
So now, okay, so I'm not saying no,
Sure.
I am saying some of the reasons why weapons get the unwieldy property has to do with the, like, physical mechanics of how the weapon functions.
That is true. Yep, that is true. That is, that's true. The only thing I think, the only minor, and I don't think it's effective, but I'm gonna voice it anyway just to get your thoughts on it. Only little devil's advocate counterpoint I would have that is cumbersome also reacts with that, right? Because cumbersome makes the weapon like take longer to reload, to draw and stow, things like that. Mm-hmm. So we do have two mechanics to express the unwieldy nature of a weapon, right? We've kind of split it in two. Unwieldy just specifies the firing nature of the attack, and then cumbersome handles all of the rest of the mechanisms, right? If it's one of those weapons that just takes forever to reload, or it's, you know, Legend of Acreus, it's the super shotgun from Doom. The thing is heavy. It takes a while to pull out. But so your point still stands though. That is very fair. Yeah.
How much do we care about that, though?
I mean,
because if it is ultimately supposed to be space magic at the end of the day.
Right. It's also 6 seconds, right? Every turn is 6 seconds, and I think even the most unwieldy weapon, the slowest firing weapon in Destiny, I can probably get off 2 shots in 6 seconds. I'm really trying to think if there's anything that would be slower than that. God, could you imagine how bad of a first-person shooter weapon that would be if you shot it?
I have an answer to this question.
Sorry.
Hang on. Kimmy! What's the name of a weapon that takes longer than 6 seconds to reload? Just anyone. Name one.
Oh, to reload.
Just give me a gun that takes longer than 6 seconds to reload.
Well, probably any kind of revolver. Unless you have a speed loader, but,
I mean, yeah. IRL, I guess revolvers would take longer. What were the guns you operated? The batteries?
Oh, you're talking about the cannons?
Yeah. What were those ones called?
Well, they're just a 105mm or 155mm.
Do you hear that? 155mm cannon. That's what takes longer than 6 seconds to reload.
Well, you know what?
You can't fury attack a cannon.
I wouldn't put it past a hunter to try, but you know what? Yeah, if a 155mm howitzer is the upper bounds of what takes longer to fire than 6 seconds, I think we might be okay, Kitty. I think we might be okay. I think if somebody gets 2 shots off in a turn with Ariana's Vow, I think we'll be okay.
Alright, okay.
You're good. That's really funny, though. Actually, I would be really interested to see. Kind of am from a... I gotta go look up a video of a 155 howitzer firing. So I really thought the reload... Because they have, like, teams operating those things. I mean, for one person, right? It would definitely take longer. Let me see. No, yeah, that shell heavy as shit. That's taken them a while to do. I just watched like a 6-foot-tall man struggle with the shell that they put in that gun. Yeah, no, that's fair. That takes a little while. But the shell's like as big as he is. Well, it's an exaggeration.
Oh my god, I didn't accidentally mute myself. I muted myself, and then I struggled to unmute myself for several seconds. So you can't fury attack unmuting yourself.
Yeah, an artillery gun. Yeah, you know what? I agree. You can't fury attack an artillery gun. If you want to put a dev note box there, Kitty, like one of those little pop-up blue boxes of like, hey, by the way, your players will probably ask, and to be fair, if you gave them an artillery gun, that's your fault. But no, the Revenant Hunter can't fury attack an artillery piece. Sorry.
No, I mean, well, technically, when you fire those guns, you're not taking the attack action, you're taking the interact with a station action, which is how we get around all of this.
Yeah, which, by the way, that was one of those things I was like, man, really, when I was ages ago reading through the Architect's Guide for the first time and looking at all the vehicles, I was like, man, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, it gets across that narrative of like, oh, multiple people at stations doing their roles, and I was like, but why is it? And I was immediately like, oh, because some little power gamer with extra attack is gonna go, can I fire the planet cracker twice? And it's like, no, you cannot.
You don't have extra interaction. You have extra attack.
That's right. That's just for the Elixni with their multiple little grabbers.
Oh my god, I've been dealing with that problem ever since 1E first started, is everyone being like, I'm holding 4 guns, I can make 4 attacks, right? And like, no, that's not how, first of all, 2 of those are not in your dominant hands. Second of all.
Yep. Which is, and that's, anyway, we don't need to get into the nuances of dual wielding.
Alright, okay, so let's go back to Fury Attack.
Yes.
So whenever you take the attack, so once on your turn when you take the attack action, you may make a second weapon attack as a free action, but you must attack the same target, and you must take the recoil damage after resolving the damage of the attack. Or we can actually just say after resolving the attack. We don't need the damage part, because if they miss, then, you know,
Yeah, oh gosh, I didn't even think about that, but you have to think about the power, you have to think about the rules lawyers.
You have to think about
Technically, there was no damage to the attack.
Oh my god.
Therefore, I don't take recoil damage.
Is that the voice your new character's gonna have? That's a great voice.
Oh, I could.
You
Kitty,
could.
Don't challenge me. I'll do it. I'll play the geediest little nerd you've ever seen.
The Cabal nerd is what you're going to play.
Cabal engineer striker titan. Big burly, looks like they should talk with like the biggest jockiest voice ever. And it's just like, "Hi guys, I just got off the city, Hawk." It's like, Oh my god, please, no. You're not on my patrol, are you? Yep, we're on the weekend deployment. I hope you're ready to spend 72 hours with me.
Give me a second, hang on. Okay. Alright, back to fucking Fury Attack. We had to do Fury Attack. Oh my god.
Yes, yeah.
We are the worst people to be working on this shit together. Okay.
The best and the worst, I would say, but yes.
Okay, so if we wanted to, so...
Do
we want this to be infinitely looping is the real question. Well, if it's infinitely looping, then we don't have any point of doing a lot of other stuff with the class. I don't think it can infinitely loop.
No, I don't think it can infinitely loop either.
Okay, so
and to be fair, if we're giving them the ability to step outside of action limitation on certain types of weapons, I think that's actually going to be perfectly fine.
I'm going to make it before
I think
as well, before resolving the attack.
Yes.
So
and definitely still throw the power weapon line in there because holy cow, yeah. That actually becomes a very explicit thing that needs to be added in if we're giving them an extra action to attack with. Because otherwise that could hypothetically step outside of the limitation of power weapons. So. Yep. Take 2d6 recoil damage. Yeah, no, I like this.
Okay. So if we do this...
Yeah, it's also good that it scales. It's very important that recoil damage scales.
There we go.
So that's good. Now that cooks. I like that.
Okay.
It's a subtle change. I fully anticipate this will be one of those changes that the vast majority of players won't notice until 4 months after we release it, and then somebody goes, hold on, wait a minute. I can attack with a fusion rifle twice on my turn? Oh my god, that's the coolest thing ever. And then, yeah. But I don't know,
I don't know if it'll take 4 months, considering some of our players in server, let alone the people outside the server that we don't really get to talk to a whole lot.
That's true.
I don't think it's going to take 4 months, but there will be a point at which players will realize what this change entails, and they're going to lose their mind.
All I know, Kitty, is it is a shame to the rest of the New Light player base that inattentive me, discovered how dual wielding worked in 2E first. That it operates off of an item interaction and not a bonus action anymore. Yeah, because I mentioned that offhanded, and then people I know that are closer on the power gamer end of the spectrum went, really? And I'm like, yeah, dual wielding's great in 2E. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And
I'm
you
like,
get all the
I need to...
perks and you still keep your bonus action to do your class shit.
It's great.
I am looking forward to the day when I once again have to nerf it into the ground.
When you what? You cut out.
When I once again have to nerf it into the ground, which is something I had to do several times in 1E.
No! I understand, though. I think because, at the end of the day, dual wielding is entirely... there are 3 weapons you can dual wield with. Submachine guns and sidearms, anyone can dual wield with. And then if you manage to get the dual wielding fighting style, you can upgrade one of your weapons to a hand cannon. That, I think, actually makes it extremely balanced. Now the day that you add a one-handed fusion rifle to the game, or if you suddenly decide to make Chaperone a one-handed shotgun for Terminator vibes, we might have some problems. But then at the end of the day, those are special weapons. Don't give Fimini
ideas. Please don't give Fimini ideas.
Hey, I need you to know, we know for a fact now that there are shotgun hand cannons in Edge of Fate now. I don't know if you've seen that. There's a new frame of hand cannon called spread shot hand cannons, and they are just one-handed shotguns.
Cool.
With hand cannon ammunition.
I gotta go watch that. My God, I'm so behind.
I mean, they're cool as hell. Don't get me wrong.
It reminds
me. As soon as I saw them, I was like, "Oh, that's amazing! That's gangster! I love that!" And then my immediate second thought was, "Oh, Kitty's gonna have a hell of a time balancing that."
I mean. Maybe not. Maybe it gives it explosive damage.
Yeah, explosive damage.
In tabletop land, explosive damage means you're really good at handling swarms.
Yeah, exactly.
And but the what you're describing it reminds me of, I think, the Mauler from Perfect Dark on the N64.
Yep. I'm gonna Google it just to double check that my initial reaction was correct, but Mauler, what was it from what did you say again? I'm blanking.
Perfect Dark on the N64. I believe you could dual wield those two.
Mauler from Perfect Dark. Yep, nope, this one. Yep, it's exactly like those, basically. It doesn't have the big blade on the front of it, but yeah. The blade magazine, but yeah. That's how it works. It's just a shotgun pistol. Or a shotgun hand cannon.
So...
They're cool. They look really cool.
So now, if we do 3rd level, it's when you're empowered at 6th level. Whenever you become empowered... How do we word this? Which is... you remain empowered until the end of your next turn, even if you...
We might want to go whenever you become empowered by Venator's Quarry.
Which we might want to rename.
True, but for vibe coding purposes. Yeah. Whenever you become empowered by Venator's Quarry, you remain empowered until the end of your next turn. Yeah, I think that's the right way to go about doing it.
I think we need wording in here that it has to specifically say, and this is something that we have to do with the rest of the game, which is that we need the wording that says you're empowered until blah 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 time, even if you use the benefit from it.
Oh, got it.
Part of the condition itself, I believe, is that once you use the benefit, you stop being empowered.
Yes. Well, let's go steal from ourselves. Let's just go find how Empowering Rift is worded.
Well, I think that actually needs to be updated to have that wording in there as well.
Really?
Yeah, because if we go to Voidwalker, what is it?
Dig up my desk.
Creature standard are always considered empowered. That's how it's currently written.
Right. Which, I mean, the intention of that, obviously, what the words say in the rules as intended of that is, as long as you're standing in an Empowering Rift, you're empowered, right? So even after you use empowered, you remain empowered, because while you're standing in the rift, you're just being continuously given the empowered condition.
So if we do this, then I guess we could, whenever you become empowered by Venator's Quarry, you are always considered empowered, same rank, until the end of your next turn.
Yeah, always considered empowered until the end of your next turn. Yeah, I honestly think that works. I genuinely think that phrasing just works. It's got the Todd Howard stamp of approval.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad Todd Howard likes this. There's a few like industry designers and developers I would love to have a conversation with. Unironically, Todd Howard is on the list.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, and some of it could just be that he's genuinely a very good spokesman. He's just a very charismatic person. He genuinely seems very passionate about the projects that he works on. So I don't know. In that regard, it would be just kind of fascinating to have a conversation with him. I tend to agree. It's kind of just fun to talk with passionate people about the things that they're passionate about.
So then, what's our higher level features for this? I mean, as this could stay here to... We could leave it like this, and this could be a nice stop. I mean, it's okay. It's not bad, it's not good either. It's not very flavorful, but it fills in the space. And then this one needs to be replaced. That one's
gotta go. That one's gotta go.
You want benefits while they're empowered, right?
Yeah. So, I think under Hazy Steps, it would be very, very cool to add in the furthermore while you are empowered, you gain extra movement speed or something to that capacity, or while empowered you can hide while lightly obscured, because I do like that. Still want to keep that predatory, like, you know, that skirmisher hit and run, lie in ambush kind of mentality. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because we can just tack on the empowered until the end of your next turn for 3rd level, right? That doesn't need to be its own 6th level feature.
Well, so always empowered until the end of your next turn. We could put that at 13th level, because one of the other things you have to keep in mind is that there are going to be a lot of people who... We don't have any plans right now to do multi-classing, but there's a lot of people who do, like, want to homebrew it and stuff like that. And I do keep that in mind for some of our features, and I'm like, you can't go before 11th level. I can't let multi-classers have this.
Yeah, see, that's such an interesting design element, right? And I'd actually love to know your thoughts on that, because 5e baseline goes, yeah, multi-classing's fine. We promised we balanced for multi-classing. They didn't. That's a total lie. But they put it in there as, like, an optional rule, but it's kind of one of those optional rules that's really not optional in the 5e community. You're kind of seen as a bit of a hard-nosed GM if you go, no, I'm not going to allow multi-classing at the table, and all of your power gamers go, but why? And then the GM looks at them and goes, because of you. You're the problem. You know, Johnny over here's doing a fighter bard multi-class because that's just kind of cool for like a troubadour soldier vibe. You're over here, Mr. Sorcidin, of, oh, I promise paladin's core to my identity. Then why'd you only take 2 levels of it at the start of the game and everything else is about getting you more power, you know, more spell slots, Jimmy? You know, that vibe. So I don't know, if it's not core to the identity, and I think some of that too is source material, right? Like, multi-classing's in the game, sure, that's prismatic. It's an epic tier of gameplay, not low tier. Do we really need to worry about multi-classing in that regard?
I still worry about it in the sense of whether or not we do it, there are going to be GMs who are going to homebrew it, and there's nothing we can do about that. That's going to exist.
If there's nothing we can do about it, then why worry about it, I guess, is my way of thinking.
Mostly because it's not logical. I still want to look out for those GMs. I still want to be like, you know, if you let your players multi-class and I let this feature exist before 10th level, or 10th level or lower, I am setting you up for a horrible lesson at some point in your campaign.
Well, okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's very noble. I think the other way that I'll think to counter this then is empowering Rift is a 4th level superclass feature for Warlocks, which already does this same thing.
Yeah, but you have to stand in the zone of Planet Cracker.
That's true. You know what? Fair point. Fair point.
You have to stand in the danger zone.
Okay. Then I would like this. Okay, here's the other thing. I would like this sooner, but you're right. Also, it doesn't really need to be at 3rd level because they can't really do much with this anyway. At 3rd level, I mean, they could still have 2. They could still have 2 turns of it, right, without needing to kill something. But the whole point of this class is you're hopefully killing something every turn to perpetuate empowered. We could put it at 6th level because that's the level right after they get extra attack, and that's really deep for a multi-class. 6th level is super deep for a multi-class. If you're at least for typical 5e.
It is pretty deep for a multi-class.
Especially if you're going with the normal rules for multi-classing, which is I think normally it's like what, you can't start multi-classing until like 3rd level. So that means that the soonest you could get this would be and start really benefiting from another class's features would be like 9th level.
I'm looking at our hunter table, by the way, because currently with the way we have everything set up, not extra attack, it's fury attack. Because
that was an adjustment I made, because uninhibited was originally a 6th level feature. By the way, I shifted that because a 3 to 9 jump felt very, very far. To wait for another archetype feature.
Okay, yeah. So then, okay, we can put this. We can put this at 3rd level, and then also while you're empowered. So if we do that. Okay, so if we do that at our 6th level, then they get their movement speed and all that other stuff. That essentially allows them to benefit from empowered while benefiting from empowered. Because they get the damage of empowered while still getting the while you're empowered, you get to do this.
Right, because it would be very not fun to be like, oh, I get all these cool bonuses while empowered. I shot something. Oh, no, I can't hide anymore. That feels pretty bad.
We do. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind with the Revenant is we do have the Mantle bonus action melee power that we added to this. This is not a Bungie. This is a Velvet Fang original, which is
Bungo no steal.
Bungo no steal. Stop stealing from us. Seriously. My God, one of these days I'm gonna make a video that just outlines all the things that Bungie has quote unquote. We're both designing for the same place.
Same IP.
It's just convergent design. There's nothing special about it. It's not stealing, but it's really funny.
Yes, for legal purposes, we are not accusing Bungo of theft. We promise.
Yeah.
Please no hurt.
No hurt. Hire us instead.
Yes, we have really good ideas sometimes. We're just eccentric.
But the mantle creates the heavily obscured.
Yes.
So we can have that. All right. So what we have to start to imagine now is we're a player and we're playing the Venator.
Yes.
Can we see arguments for either melee power on this subclass?
Now, 1,000,000%. You were absolutely right before. If I was a Venator before we made these changes, I would look at, bonus action melee power, it doesn't hurt anybody. Cool. Withering Blade can potentially hurt up to, like, the everyone in a 30-foot line. Yeah, I want that one. Now, there's both, right? For sure, because Withering Blade is great at closing kills. It does good damage. It can also damage a lot of people, so you can kind of cast your net, so to speak, if there's a bunch of enemies at low health, or that you might potentially be able to kill with your power. You're gonna go for it. So I like that. I like that a lot. Also, Withering Blade plus Fury Attack is cool because if you it replaces an attack, and if you attack multiple creatures, that gives you multiple creatures to potentially proc Fury Attack on. In as much as you could pick which one that second attack's gonna go to, because we
might need to put wording in there that explicitly points out to people that that's possible, because I could see GMs arguing that it's not possible with how it's worded right now.
Then the way that we could do that is I need to be, for whatever reason, I need to be currently looking at the mechanic to say the words that need to come out of my mouth. instead of you must attack the same target, we could just say must attack a target that was damaged by the attack. Which could also include payload weapons, which a hunter running around with payload weapons, especially with Fury Attack, actually sounds really, really cool. Because we don't really see a lot of hunters with payload weapons. You got it. You got it. I believe in you. But the target must be a creature you damaged. Yes. Yeah, with your attack. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm wondering here is, so once on your turn when you take the attack action, you may make a second weapon attack as a free action. We have attack in here. We have 2 pointers for attack, and we don't have any clear language that tells you which pointer to point at.
The instigating attack could be one, right? The initial instigating first, because we have second and then first, so we could just be explicit about pointing to the first attack.
Second attack. Okay, I think I like that.
I would almost say no. I think first is fine. It's going to be an especially pedantic GM that goes, well, first attack means that it was only the first target hit by Withering Blade, but like. And the way to explicitly get around that would be to say the initial attack, because that's clearly including the entire effects of the instigating the initial attack, right? Withering Blade is the initial attack. It damaged 3 targets. Congratulations, you can now pick one of those to Fury Attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once on your turn, when you take the attack action, you may make a second weapon attack as a free action, but the target must be a creature you damage with your first attack, and you must... Well, we can also just say...
Oh, look at you, Kitty, you're so smart.
We could just do that.
Yeah, that's clever. That's clever.
Yeah, it was clever, and it took us how many minutes before we saw the forest through the trees?
It's like when you write 7 lines of code, and then the senior dev comes behind you and goes, you know there's just a function for that, right? And you're like, what? And then they just like punch in one little line of code, and like, hey, it's done, and it's more efficient. Great, carry on. And you're like, I'm so dumb.
Alright. We got it. We got there.
We got there. That's the most important part.
And before resolving the second attack, so you make a second attack, and then... Yeah, alright, I like the wording of that right now. Okay, so going back to the Venator. Alright.
Yes. Yeah.
So if we can see arguments for both melee powers, then we're on the right track here.
Yep.
I don't care so much about having arguments for, like, all melee, or all super, or not all grenade powers. I don't really care about that one too much. Super powers is also one that we need to keep in mind, because it doesn't have to be all superpowers, but it has to be at least 2 superpowers.
Yes. Yeah, I think there is already there's an argument for both, right? Because Silence and Squall makes, first of all, it's an attack, so it'll benefit from Empowered, right? Which is great. But then also you make a swirling vortex that you could just go hide in, right? And then you can also move that around the battlefield, and it gives you your little hide spot. But then also Reaping gives you just a super dope weapon to be using to benefit from Empowered with, right?
And Harvest is its own action. It's not the attack action. We don't have to worry about that. We're good.
Yep, we're great. All
right.
Yep.
So then...
yeah, gosh, could you imagine?
I could, and that's the part that I'm scared of.
No, it's okay. We got it.
Okay,
the language prohibits.
Other features for this class. How do we expand on what this class can do?
Yeah, some immediate ideas, I think. And maybe this could be like 17th level feature to keep with the... we can move the names around, but a mechanic I have in my mind is maybe something to the effect of, and this could be crazy, but this is just to carry the tone of what I'm trying to get across. Could do something like when you make an attack from hiding, like a creature that didn't know you were there, you can maximize your empowered damage against them. Something like that, right?
Okay.
To get across that idea of an ambush predator, right?
If it's just the empowered damage, I'd want that at 13th level, because if you want to do something like the classic rogue, if you hit a target when it's surprised, it's a critical hit, that's a 17th level.
No. And there's a reason why I specifically said empowered, because I know how bad that can be when it's like, yep, all the damage is maximized. All the damage? Yep, every bit of damage you can tack onto this. It's like, great, so we're gonna play football with the Revenant Venator as the running back, and the whole rest of the strategy is how many damage modifiers can we tack onto the Revenant Hunter when they punch Crota in the face. And that's not.
Do we want to limit them to weapon attack rolls, or do we want them to have payload weapons? Because if we have them payload rocket launchers with this feature, is that a problem? I
personally don't think it's a problem, because the other way that we could do that too is we could give them so I think the way that we can get around that is we don't inherently give them rocket. If we think that's a problem, we don't give them rocket launchers as a starting proficiency. Okay. That then becomes something that they need to sink like a feat into, or a particularly beneficent DM might go, you can spend downtime training with this, or if they're using the expression systems, they go Crucible or something like that, right? But that's becomes narrative direction for that character, not just, hey, you're the rocket launcher hunter. How
do we... Okay.
So, and the other way that I think we can benefit this as well is, we could also, if we're worried about the maximized damage thing, yeah, there we go, hidden. Yep, if you were hidden when you damaged a creature, you may maximize the empowered damage. Yeah. Empowered when you damage, you may maximize the empowered damage.
I think we just need that. If you were hidden and empowered when you damage... Okay, so here's the problem. If you were hidden and empowered when you damaged a creature, you can be hidden from one creature, but not hidden from another creature. I think it's if you...
if you are empowered, I think we just move the hidden part to, if you are empowered when you damaged a creature you were hidden from, you may maximize the empowered damage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's just how the language needs to be efficiently couched.
Yeah, when you damage creature you're hidden from, you may... Okay, yeah. So if we have that there, and then what is our 17th level feature?
That's a great question.
What we do is, Boreal Executor. If you fall onto a creature...
Yeah, it's just Assassin's Creed. Yeah,
it's just Assassin's Creed up in here.
Boreal, yeah.
We can also, if we don't want to get distracted by that name, we can always change it to something.
Yeah.
And then it gives ourselves the mental space to think of other things. Hazy Steps can stay like that. Venator's Quarry, I do want to rename, but I'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
What's a way to capstone this? So if you're the Venator, Mist, cutting down enemies, silent, swift, deadly. Remember when we... Okay, so yeah, you get your empowered, the empowered goes up, you get the benefits while you are... We could give them another benefit while they're empowered.
Yeah.
We could allow them to spend stasis shards to become empowered.
Ooh, that's kind of interesting. That is kind of interesting. What would they want to be spending their stasis shards on anyway?
Well, they're mostly going to want to be spending it on the overshields. 9 times out of 10, they're going to want the overshields.
That's true.
They're
well, then what if we lean into that then? What if we to really capstone the idea of this ruthless, unerring predator that will do whatever it takes to close its kills, we give them some method of doing more recoil damage to themselves, to embolden themselves, do more power, make more attacks, just lean into what they're doing already to incentivize them to spend those stasis shards in that way, right? Just to add to that feedback loop. We're just kind of gilding the lily here a little bit. It is just a 17th level feature after all. I say just, but
yeah, that's one of your endgame features.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is it supposed to be... Hang on, is it supposed to be 17th level? Hang on, because I think this is actually supposed to be 18th level.
Oh, did I? I thought I updated all of my... Yeah, it's 17th, hunt feature. Yep.
Okay, so here's a weird design thing that we actually have to revisit now.
Okay.
So 5th level, you're either going to get extra attack or something that's not extra attack, but is basically extra attack, or something that is near. You have the Venn diagram of extra attack, and then you have the thing over here off to the side.
Right.
If you get...
It's like the innate smite mechanics that some of the other classes get, right? If
you get extra attack, you are not supposed to get features at 9th, 13th, and 17th levels, because at those levels you get the plus PB and you get the plus power level. And with your extra attack, that +1 to hit becomes a +2 because you get 2 attacks.
I see that now.
You're not supposed to get features on those levels. If you don't get the extra attack, you do get features on those levels because you're making up for the fact that you don't get extra attack. And furthermore, you also get an additional ASI at 10th level. That's how those are supposed to be set up. You can see it on Broodweaver. It doesn't. It gets entwined attack, but because their attack is so bad. Their attack is so bad it doesn't count, so they get the extra ASI and they get the features at those other levels.
So, here's my thinking.
Yeah.
Because you're hurting yourself to do your extra attack, can we think in similar thought lines as Broodweaver in that regard? It's clearly not that your attack is not good. Your attack is great. It's just also, however, you hurt yourself to do it. Because to get that extra +2 benefit that you're talking about at all of those jump levels, you're having to hurt yourself to do it. And because that damage scales, it still is relevant throughout your entire career as the character.
I reserve the right to change it later.
Understood. Okay. What would, just for the purpose, so would all that really be is just moving the level then at a later point if we decide that that's too much?
All the features that you have on those levels that are supposed to be, they're quote-unquote dead levels is how people usually refer to them as, because they don't have a feature. But you get so much other shit on that level, and those levels also tend to be the levels where a bunch of other stuff increases.
You're cutting out a lot, Kitty.
Stop cutting out! I don't know why it's doing this. Is it the gain? Do I gotta do a higher gain? Do I have to do a lower gain? I don't know if this is helping at all. But hopefully it stops.
You're coming through loud and clear now.
Okay.
So maybe it was just a bad spell.
But, so, they're quote-unquote called dead levels when they get no feature. Obviously it's not a dead level, you're getting a lot of other...
Your proficiency bonus goes up, yeah.
You're getting other stuff. And your power level goes up as well.
Right. Okay.
What you would have to do is you would have to take the features from those dead levels and find other places to put them, or get rid of them. Whichever one. But anyways,
some of those features that I think where these would obviously end up getting moved to, things like permafrost layer or uninhibited, things like that, they could just go. They are kind of flavorful, but also some of them are just borderline oppressive. I think, now obviously it's an 18th level character, so we kind of have to really think about what we mean by oppressive. But like permafrost layer, that's really good. That's just insanely good. If you have overshields, you have resistance to all damage, right? As a point of order, Sunsinger Ballad of Grace does not get to benefit from their own overshields because we have a super that gives us resistance to all damage while we have overshields.
Yeah.
It's at 18th level, but Revenant just gets that.
We can adjust that one then.
Sure. My point being, that's not me pointing at something and being like, this must go, it's too good. But there are already some things that I have sniper scope on that I would not mind leaving, and I could just shove a level feature there if we playtest this and go, yeah, no, Revenants just get too much. I already know the first things that are getting hewn off the carcass.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So just so that you're aware, if you already have stuff in mind, then I'm not too worried about it.
No, don't stress about it. And even if I didn't, I could make it work. It's okay. I'm flexible.
All right. So then,
but for now, we shall persist.
I mean, when you maximize the empowered damage, we could always do something like. Do we have any feature on them that just says creatures can't detect you through scanners and stuff like that. Do we have anything like that?
No, we don't. No, we don't, actually.
Okay, because so far...
That could be...
We have to be careful about stepping on the Night Stalker's toes a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That was a really interesting... so we could put it a different way. So we could do it a different way, because there was a I remember Ido and I having a conversation about this, or maybe it was Fim and I. Fim and I were having a conversation about this. That it was kind of cool to antithetically play with the Night Stalker, where to give across the like hunter vibes. Ooh, I mean, throwing Weekend on there, that's also spicy and fun. The idea was, now this is obviously when we were playing around with the quarry mechanic, so the idea was that you would mark your quarry, and then the idea was it gave you like heat vision, so you could just always see where they were. They can't hide from you.
Oh, you get the far sight from Perfect Dark at the N64.
Yep. Yeah, but that idea. So it's like the opposite of how Night Stalkers work, where Night Stalkers and the fact that they are antithetical to one another, right? So the idea is like the Venator doesn't like the Night Stalker because they can't detect the Night Stalker, and the Night Stalker doesn't like the Venator because they're always pursuing them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to find them because even though they're, you know, really good at perceiving things, they're constantly jumping in and out of mist and fog and, you know. So we could do something like that, like heat vision, effectively, or hate vision even.
Hate vision.
so it can target Vex. But
well, Vex give off a lot of heat. I mean, I would argue that as
true.
a GM that Vex give off a lot of heat, being supercomputers walking around.
That's true.
And the superconductor super collider on the wrist of your warlock over there that they're wearing as a bracelet also gives off a lot of heat.
Amazing. I love that.
But we can also give them Weekend, and that can because while it's, you know, we always have to, we don't know what a GM will put in front of players, and we have to keep that in mind whenever we're designing classes. And it can be a lot of fun in our side of it all to be like, oh, this class is going to be super good at taking out ads, and this class is going to be really good at taking down bosses. But when you're a player and you're in front of a GM who refuses to give you ads, or a GM who refuses to give you bosses, you know. I don't want a 5e ranger problem, okay? I do not want a 5e ranger problem. Every time I DM for a ranger, I just tell him, you don't have to pick. You're just gonna get it all.
Take both.
You don't have to pick. Oh my god. I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah. No, that is more than fair. That is
because
more than
all
fair.
of the open world games like to go to multiple biomes. Please and thank you.
Yep, and also, there's also just the core aspect of range. So first of all, overland travel is a thing that just gets hand-waved by most GMs, which I think is super disappointing, because one of the hallmarks of even though it's fantasy and we've got magic and blah, 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 overland travel during the general historical time period that fantasy emulates typically, right, like the medieval and the Middle Ages, overland travel was so risky. So risky. It was not hop on the I-10 and, you know, putter on down to the next city. You know, there's a reason why you would get as many people together to go travel at one time, because it would take you a long time. There was no weather forecast, you know, all of that jazz.
And safety in numbers, etc.
Safety in numbers. And so the fact that, oh, I'm the ranger, I make overland travel a more sure thing. I'm the guy you go look for in town to lead you over, tends to just, one, it's a part of the game that gets hand-waved most of the time anyway. But even if the GM doesn't, but you have a ranger, they're just going to go, oh yeah, and because you have this character, you travel safely. That's not engaging. That doesn't give that character the spotlight. That goes, oh, we can check that box now and move on. That character now doesn't get a cool scene based on one of the core identities of their feature, right? Like, it's, you know.
I get you. I see you.
Yeah.
Using your own words. I see you. I see you.
Thank you. Anyway, not relevant to the discussion now.
No, wait. Again, best and worst.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, so looking at these here, how do you feel about your baby now?
I love it. I
good.
Genuinely, I feel like it got streamlined, which I think was great. Because honestly, one of the parts of it that I loved the core identity of this class. Sorry, just a moment.
Oh no. Gone forever. We're never gonna see him again. All right. Well, that's been Draconic, everyone.
No, I'm back. Just had to deal with a whiny dog. That's okay. He couldn't see me around the corner, so he thought I was gone forever. So I had to remind him I was here.
Right. We here at Ostrich Science.
Yeah. Nice. Yes. Yeah. Chief scientist. That's this dog for sure of Ostrich Science. Yeah, no. I think it's just been more efficient. I think you can probably even see digging through some of the comments I had here while I was working on Venator was like, because one of the core ideas that we had that I think everyone sort of kind of liked was, because originally the very core idea for Hunter's Quarry was it would be a thing that would use your class power charge. But what makes that difficult is you don't get your class power charge until 4th level, but you get your archetype features at 3rd level. So you get it. It'd be backwards. It'd be cart before the horse to be like, hey, by the way, you have an extra way to spend this resource you don't have yet, but just you wait, it's gonna be phenomenal. But the dynamic was really cool of, I'm an aggressive predator, so I have to choose between dodging and hiding versus marking a target to go kill. So then it got tied to its own resource, which whenever I can steer away from, here's another number for you to track, I like to. So this is great, because this is just, hey, kill stuff, get better at killing stuff, while you're empowered. We got to stealthily build another condition without actually building another condition, go us. Chances are most players won't even recognize that they have like this whole other condition engine going on. It'll just be like, oh, cool, I want to kill stuff, and while I kill stuff, I get better at killing stuff and hunting that stuff, and then I get to pounce on them and do lots of damage, and at the very end of things, if I didn't kill them, they have to make a save or become weakened, which then just makes them easier for me to kill going forward, especially on like my follow-up attack because of Fury Attack. It's a great and compelling loop.
All right. Phew.
Yeah.
I always worry the most because my job is more of an editor, and I come in here and you're like have all these great ideas, and I say, okay, so now here's the reality check.
Yeah. No. I appreciate the reality. The reality check makes me feel sane, because otherwise I'm sitting over here with my red string board of ideas, and I was like, am I cooking? Am I not? And then the editor get to come along and go like, yeah, no, these are great ideas. We just got to polish it up, or actually, I think this is too oppressive, so we're gonna redirect that energy elsewhere. That's super, super helpful. So I like this part of the process. It's great.
Then. Thinking about just going back, if we were going to pull back a little bit and go back to our can I find 3 other ways to say the word back in one sentence? I don't know. Maybe.
Do you want to keep trying?
No, not
It might be really great practice for doing Strife, How many ways can we say this?
I wanted to go back to talking about Strife.
Great.
If we go back to the whiteboard, we can go back to talking about Strife. So when we're looking at Stasis and we're looking at what you've got developed for the Revenant so far, do you still feel like if we decide to go into Strife and we decide to make a 3rd Darkness class, do you still feel like Revenant Hunter, what you have so far, isn't going to step on the toes of the Strife Hunter?
No, I actually do. I actually think it doesn't step on the toes. I don't think it does. I gotta sit with that just a little longer. But my initial knee-jerk reaction is I really don't think it does, because the Venator is about like finality, closing things, quick, efficient kills. That's not necessarily what Strife is about. Strife's about that struggle. Stasis is a cheat code, right? Stasis is a shortcut. How quickly can we get to perfection? Strife acknowledges there is no quick road to perfection.
Strife is in it for the long con.
Yes, exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. It's the misstep that the Echo of Navigation comments about Oryx, challenging the Guardian to a duel was the dumbest thing to do, right? Like, that was like trying to find a shortcut to get their power. You probably should have just killed them, or waited, or not cared that your son died, because that's the telos. That's what our logic demands.
The logic demands you couldn't have had that love and appreciation for your, albeit bastard of a son who just screwed everyone over with the Vex, but.
Well, you know. He's in his rebellious phase.
He's
you
in
know,
his the rebel 500s when they hit 500 years old and they get super rebellious. Anyways,
gosh, now I just need the Hive parenting guide. That's what I need.
No, there's this person I follow on Tumblr, and I'm so mad that I can't recall their name off the top of my head. But they post about keeping up with the Osmium dynasty.
Oh,
which is like,
I need this in my life yesterday.
It's like everything about keeping up with the Kardashians, but it's just it's Oryx and his family. It's the Osmium dynasty. It's so
that
good.
was my favorite part. I've said this before, but I'll say it here. It was my favorite part of Heresy was when all of the siblings got together and you went and you collectively have the moment of the three of you almost had us to the brink of extinction again. Really? I don't know how you could decide what to have for dinner tonight. Like,
Right?
what is happening here? It's like, really? How did you conquer Tora Bottle? What is happening? And it was great. It was just peak. It was
peak sibling energy. And
it was.
It kind of, so this is getting a little real on the dev stream here. There's a lot of people who talk about like their siblings and how close and connected they are, and they have this built-in best friend. That is not me and my brothers, okay? Me and my brothers, we do not get along. I only see them at family functions, and I am okay with that. That's fine.
Understood. Yep. I've got family members like that.
I do see my oldest brother more because he has my niece and nephew, and I like my niece and nephew. I like them, and it's not necessarily that as adults we don't get along and we don't like each other. It's that I remember when you were 16, and I remember how you treated me at 16. And I don't have that connection to him. And the Osmium siblings remind me a lot of that.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, and that's super fair. Yeah, that's very valid.
Where you have your Crow and your Mara type siblings, and then you have these three fuckers over here.
Yeah, yeah. The Mara and Crow of like it's that idea of like in every timeline, in every situation, you will always be my brother, always be my sister, and I'll always look out for you, and I'll always care for you, right? And then you have the Osmium dynasty of like, ha ha ha, you tried to send your son to steal the lessons of how to take from me. I took him in front of you. Ha 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 ha. How do you feel about that, Savathun? He's a puppet now. And they're like, oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice. Wow. All right, that's super shitty.
Don't get me wrong, they do still care about each other, they do still love each other.
Right.
It's very much they're gonna do it while punching each other in the face.
Exactly. And it's in that really complicated family dynamic, right? It's the energy of like you would probably have a lot of very very pointed things perhaps to say about your brothers or your siblings, from the memories of childhood. But if I were to come along and say, yeah, no, I talked to your brother, he's a shithead, you'd be like, whoa, that's my brother, don't talk about him that way, right?
Yeah, like, that's the father of my niece and my nephew.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he made them. He can't be that bad.
Yeah, he's doing something right.
He's doing something okay. But yeah, no. Absolutely. And that's clearly it, right? Like, Savathun has so many times attempted to effectively overthrow her brother as the Taken King, usurp that power, steal it for herself. But at the end of the day, when we try to dig around on the Dreadnought, she tells us to, screw off, right? And like,
get out of my brother's room. What are you doing
there?
Yeah,
exactly.
This is a family matter. Get, shoo.
Yeah. We're like, he invited us. He loves us more. I'm sorry.
Savathun's like, what are you doing here? And I'm hurriedly walking up to her, scared. Savathun, please say, I would love to get out of here. He keeps bringing me back. Savathun, do you hear what he says about me? Savathun.
Savathun, please. I have to go talk to HR about the things that he's saying to me over comms. Like, it's crazy. They need a dinner first, my lord.
Jeez. But all right, coming back to being a dev.
Yes.
I promise. It's not always this bad. Sometimes it's worse.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, like, Kitty, we don't have to lie to them. And I was like, oh, no, we're being honest, kid.
But okay,
amazing.
So going forward here, I don't know if we're gonna hard commit to doing a third darkness class. I think it would be cool, and I think busting out and being like, hey, here's the stasis update, and also here's strife. Like, can you just imagine how cool that would be to drop that, and as a player to experience that? That'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, I'm literally just thinking of the event of event main right now, just exploding with that.
We do, and the thing that I talked about way before we even started doing this DevWork stuff. If we do strife, we really have to consider doubling up on some of our core mechanics on classes and letting classes. So like, focus. Just to reiterate from what we were talking about before, which is that if you look at first edition, focus actions and arc charges and arc actions, they're the same thing. They have different flavoring, they can do some different things, but they have a lot of things that they do that are exact same thing, and the mechanically, it's the same thing. You have one, and sometimes you get two, blah, blah, blah. We have to look at doubling up on that with our classes, because as much as I would love to believe that we can...
No, and
we were scraping some barrels to get Strand done.
Yeah, I agree. I generally agree with that sentiment. My point is, I think we can get that 60%, maybe even 70% unique or even parallel stuff that it will feel unique and not just be like, oh, that's super cool. This is darkness. This is darkness solar. Very cool. And I'm like, no, I think we can genuinely get in more than just a prose and flavoring fashion. We can get something mostly unique. And if we have to piggyback off of some mechanics, I think that will be okay. Furthermore, I think that's actually kind of an okay thing in general, in as much as from my time GMing 5e, the amount of times that I would have a player go, man, I want to play a cleric, but I don't want to be a cleric. And I could go, have you looked at Divine Soul Sorcerer or Celestial Warlock? And they go, oh, that's perfect, right? And if that's the kind of parallels that we've got, I think that's okay, right? Because if somebody goes, I want to play Solar, like I want to be like a Solar Titan who, has the like Sunspots kind of vibes, gets to like heal, but also smite, like pseudo paladin, but I don't want to be like the paladin vibes. If we could like go point at like Strife Titan and be like, yeah, I mean, that's literally the parallel. Like they have some similar mechanics, but they do it in a different way, and it's got more of this tone. How do you feel about that? I think that's okay, right? It's mirroring, not copying. Or echoing, perhaps, is a better way of putting it.
That's what I'm thinking of.
I think that's perfectly fine. Because I don't think when Celestial... Like, I saw more general positive feedback when things like Celestial Warlock and Divine Soul Sorcerer dropped, because it was like, oh my gosh, finally, we can do divine stuff outside of the goody two-shoes classes. Like, that's super cool. Or like the stereotypically goody two-shoes classes. I'm not having to bend over backwards to explain how my paladin's a bad boy, but my god still gives him powers.
Just have a bad god. Have a god that's a bad boy.
Yeah, but then some people don't. But
I know what you mean, but I would just have a god that's a little bad boy.
It's great. It's super fun to do that, right? Especially if they're a manipulative bastard. You're like, you get to pretend like you're a good boy, and then you do really bad boy stuff, and then they're like, oh my gosh, but you can't heal me now, and you're like, actually, no, I got more from that. My god loved that shit.
My god is a bad boy. Okay,
my god is a bad boy.
Oh my god is Oryx. Echo of Oryx, specifically.
10.
She doesn't listen. He's got two hands. He can share.
We can make this poly. It's okay.
It's okay.
He's big enough.
It's fine.
He's big enough for the both of us. Let's be real.
All right, I think we're good. I think we're signing off. That's good. High fives all around. Good work today, everyone. We don't. Oh my god, we're done.